On behalf of Amelia and our team at the BioFlex Pre-Apprenticeship, we welcome all of you and especially our exciting speakers today. For the students, each one of our speakers could probably speak for a day about their passion for their industry, for their jobs, for how they got there, where they may go next. But to honor your time span, our students' time span, we want to keep it to about an hour and 15 minutes. So you're going to get a little bit of insight into what they're all about. What we do is we pick 5 careers that you may not have thought about, that you as students may not have thought about. Certainly, I have to tell you, I hadn't thought about a lot of these careers that we've done over our past sessions, workshops. And we encourage those of you that have not seen the expanding career options that was done last cohort to go ahead and look at that. As well as, of course, paying attention to this. And as you know, we're going to do a game show format. So you don't know who's going to be called on to ask questions. So be ready. Very briefly, we're going to ask our speakers today to introduce themselves. I'll call your name. Just tell us your name, what you're doing, your role now, and who you work for. We're going to do this in sections. And at the end of the section, students, we're going to see how much you remember from their very short intros. So why don't we start with, we'll do it in the order of how we had it in the agenda. So Dr. Alvin Smith, just very one-liner.
Thank you so much. I'll try to be a one-liner. My name is Alvin Smith. I am a planetary protection engineer at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And so in that, I make sure that as we look for life on other planets or other satellites, that we do it responsibly and that we don't muck up the science. So we protect the integrity of the science by building clean spacecraft so that when spacecraft are doing their due diligence to find life on other planets, that they're finding life actually potentially on these other planets and not life that we've sent with it mistakenly, right? So that's what I do, and I love my job every single day.
Wonderful. That you do. You're one of our most passionate people. Carlos Gutierrez, would you give us your 1 minute one-liner?
Sure. Glad to be here. My name is Carlos Gutierrez. I am the Chief Strategy Officer at Lauda Institute. We are a nonprofit organization that's an accelerator. So that means we help and work with a lot of early stage science-based ventures, companies, entrepreneurs, to help them take their ideas from the lab to the market. We help them sort of realize their vision and take their idea, product, or service and enable them to make it a reality. And I'm based in Los Angeles, and I love sushi, and I'm a Pisces.
Wait, Deborah, you're on mute.
Molly Lawson, let's get your intro.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here. My name is Molly Lawson. I'm the Director of Marketing and Business Development at Sentinella Hospital Medical Center in Inglewood. We are a care facility with 362 beds, and we've been serving this area for 100 years. I plan to talk about this a little bit more in my section, but my contribution to the whole equation here at the hospital is a little bit different than what you would typically think of in a hospital. So I'm happy to share with you kind of some of the things that we do in my department.
Thank you. Thank you. Joy Hermsen. Is Joy here?
Hi.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah. So I'm so delighted to be with you. I'm the statewide director for California Community Colleges. We have a division called the Workforce Economic Development Division. I am one of 10 champions statewide trying to connect amazing job openings and career pathways to you incredible students so you can see how we can help you get there. Become one of these amazing people on this call that are living their life streams using science to make the world better. I am a Leo and I too like sushi. And I do want to say that one of the best gifts I want to say about having a group like this is to remind yourself that there are so many people in the world who would give their right arm to be in your shoes right now and have all the opportunities available to you. So we just want to thank you for your time and attention, because you're our future. And I'm out.
Thank you. Thank you. Kim Yu, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Yu. I'm with the Pasadena Fire Department. I think you guys know what the fire department does, but my role here is the hazardous materials specialist. So I am tasked with the role of ensuring public safety as it relates to chemicals, such as, chemicals. So hazardous substances, any kind of that kind of stuff. I do emergency response, so I'm on call. So if there's a huge hazmat incident or even a small one, I'm there. I also am participating in the police department's counterterrorism unit. So I coordinate all hazardous materials resources to respond to incidents at major events such as the Rose Bowl game and the Rose Parade. I oversee all pyrotechnics and special effects that happen here in town. So when they film and they want to shoot people up or blow a car up, I'm there. And then I do inspections of facilities to make sure they follow all the laws and regulations.
Terrific. You did. Terrific. I think Kim was my biggest surprise when I heard fire department bio background. Interesting. That was my big surprise, and I hope it is to the students as well. So, Amelia, do we have a little poll?
Okay, so launching the poll. So you should see the first question. There's actually two questions. First question, if I work in hazardous materials, who am I? Which of the speakers am I?
Each one of you, all students are to fill it in, put a dot in. And we can too. Want us to do one at a time?
So we have 5 responses so far.
Everybody should be responding.
We should have 13. We got 8. Okay, last chance. Okay, share the results. So 89% of people agreed that Kim was the one who works with hazardous materials. Question 2, if I help keep space clean, who am I? 89% got Alvin. Yay. Nice work.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. So students, we want you engaged. So the next part of our program is each of the panelists are going to speak briefly about their career journey. How did they get to where they are? Now, they're not high school students, so they probably have a relatively long story, but we're going to ask them to keep it to 2 minutes. So this time, let's start with Molly. Molly, tell us how you got to where you are now.
Okay, great. I had to just unmute myself there. So I have just a couple of slides. I don't know if you can pull them up or.
Yes.
Because I don't think I can do screen share.
Yep.
You want that for your career pathway or when you talk about different careers? Because that's going to be a third part. This is just you. This part is just you, not the careers. Okay, so you still want the slides? It's just how you got there.
Okay, well, it was all together, but I'm happy to just go through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
There it comes.
Yes.
Okay, we are attempting to share.
You see it.
See it on the screen. Okay, there it is. So I'll just have to tell you to click through. So again, I work for Sentinel Hospital in Inglewood. I'm in charge of click through just quickly. Next one. There we go. Just a little bit of history on the hospital that I wanted to share with you is that Sentinel has been in this community in Inglewood for almost 100 years. So in 2024 will be our 100-year anniversary. So it's been serving this community for a really long time. It's fine to stay on this slide. This kind of just gives you an idea of the number of patients that, yeah, the stats, the number of patients that come through the hospital on a yearly basis. Now, with the COVID-19 pandemic, our numbers were a little bit reduced, but just as an example, we had over 43,000 visits to our emergency department last year, which would almost fill up Dodger Stadium. So you can go to the next one. Slide, please. This is just a sample of all the things that we do
Molly,
at the hospital.
excuse me, I'm going to ask you to say, Molly, excuse me, I'm going to ask you to save that for the next section when we give you more time. Could you just tell us quickly how you got to your position? Just about you, Molly, how you got to your position.
Okay.
Where did, your career path.
Okay, so sorry. So here I am. So my background is in consumer marketing and communications. I went to college to study journalism and PR. I didn't necessarily want to be a journalist, but I did know that some of my strengths were in writing and communication. So I wanted to see how that would apply. I spent the majority of my career actually in consumer products, with 10 years at Sony's PlayStation division in the Bay Area. So I was part of the original launch team for PlayStation in the United States. And through my time there, I ended up as the head of communications in all North America. So I launched the original PlayStation, PlayStation 2, the PSP handheld, and PS3. So the types of things that I did there was community relations and public relations and events and entertainment marketing and brand development. And it kind of spanned the whole gamut for that brand. And I got to a point where I really wanted to do something a little bit more meaningful for myself. So I kind of pivoted out of the consumer product area and decided that my way of contributing to kind of the world was going to be through healthcare. And through a couple of other jobs, I ended up at the acute care facilities that I am now. And the reason that I wanted to share my personal journey is to just demonstrate that in my specific career trajectory, I have a lot of transferable skills. So when you think about your career, I want you to also not necessarily have to pivot or have to define yourself in one particular industry, that if you have strong skills, you're able to kind of move through various industries as you go along. So that was my journey.
And we'll save the rest of your slides for the next section.
I just wanted to kind of
That's great.
What I do here, because I think it'll provide a little bit more context to.
Yeah. And I would bet that most of our students have heard of PlayStation. So that was my second big surprise in talking to Molly, is a PlayStation. Wow, how interesting. Right. Yeah, so thank you very much. And can you set a timer when you have slides up?
I don't know if I can.
Yeah, I think that's so I think when we get to the bigger part, folks, if you're using slides, we'll have to just, interrupt you and let you know your time. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's jump to Dr. Smith, Alvin Smith, and your career journey. And I know it's going to be a challenge for you to tell us that within 2 minutes, but try.
I'll definitely do my best. So I'm originally from the East Coast, and I got my start. I've always been a space nerd as a kid. I've always loved space, but never could figure out how to bridge the gap between my passion of biology and really that other passion of space. And so very early on, I really started my early career and through even high school and undergrad, focusing on biology, but for health. And so I wanted to go to and start a pre-med program. I started, went through undergrad in biology, graduated, took the MCATs, was prepared to go to medical school. I actually started an MD PhD program years and years and years ago. And so I was still at that junction between, do I want medicine or do I want science? And so what happened was that I started to do the med, and I pulled out of that and focused on science because I really loved to see really the underpinnings of biology and what that really meant. So I started to do a lot of work in HIV out east, did some infectious disease work, so vaccine development, worked with Ebola and smallpox, all in this big high containment suit. So when Kim was talking about biohazards, that was my life for a long time, working with the DoD and other government agencies. And then from then, I actually stumbled into Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I had no idea that, again, that mix between biology and engineering existed. And so simply through a job or a Google search, I typed in microbiology and space, and I found that there was a connection for me at JPL. And so I came out to Pasadena, fell in love with the science, fell in love with the environment, and I've been here ever since. And so now I'm making that connection for other students around the world, actually. So I'll stop there.
Great job. And since you mentioned hazardous waste, why don't we go right to Kim and how you got into your career?
It's so funny that Dr. Smith talked about that because it was the same thing. Like I was raised, except I was kind of forced to go into pre-med. Like growing up, my parents always said, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a doctor. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll be a doctor. So when came time to apply to college, I was like, well, what do I study? I guess I have to study some sort of biology and some sort of chemistry. So I decided biochem, which is not biology plus chemistry. It's something totally different. I learned when I got to college. But you know, growing up, I always had a love for science, but I also really had a love for music. But the science part was really ingrained in me because they wanted me to be a doctor. But when I got to UCLA, I realized that was not the pathway. Like Dr. Smith, I took the MCAT, so I was all ready to apply to med school. I was like, oh, no way, sorry. I just really connected with the science and the scientists, not particularly those who wanted to be doctors. I found that it was just a totally different thing. And so I ended up joining a research group, and I developed fine powders of titanium aluminum, which could be formed and molded into anything you want with strength and the lightness of it. So that was a published paper. I then managed all the chemistry instructional labs at UCLA for about 2 years. Then after that, I was like done with universities. I felt like I wanted to get in the real world. So I got a job with the Department of Public Works doing industrial waste regulation and stormwater pollution control and underground storage tanks. And after about 2 years of that, I found that the fire department was looking for someone exactly like me. Who knew that the fire department was looking for a chemist or a biochemist? And here I am 14 years later, still at the same department, loving my job every day. I really love what I do, and I never knew this existed. So I love being able to share with other students that a world like this exists for scientists.
Terrific. And I'd say that she kind of likes her job. Okay, let's jump over to Carlos, and let's get into entrepreneurship and accelerators.
Sure. Thank you.
How you got to where you are.
Such impressive backgrounds. So my pathway is pretty varied. I think what you hear is sort of, there's never a linear approach from A to B. So I started, I was studying biology in college, loved the biosciences, but ultimately actually graduated with a degree in marketing. I actually loved competition. So I started this advertising agency club in college and did competitions. And I really enjoyed that aspect of introducing new products and services and working with a team. And so from there, I went to publishing, working for doing some sales, for a publishing company in Westwood. And then hopped around. I worked in Kia Kia Motors and marketing in Irvine. And then from there, I got an opportunity to, through another contact that I knew from somewhere else, to go to the Bay Area to work for a magazine called Internet World for this thing called the internet that was burgeoning in about 1993. And I thought, Bay Area, internet, yeah, I have no ties. I'm not married. What am I going to do? So I went up there for 5 years and I really had a great time there. After working in that space for a while in high technology, I came back down to Los Angeles and I worked for the Los Angeles Times, helping to launch their latimes.com property. So it was a little bit of publishing, internet, and marketing together. And then from there, I went to an incubator. This is during the dot-com boom. There was all these different incubators. There was one called Idea Lab in Pasadena, which was pretty well known. And so a headhunter called me and I went there. It was fantastic. 2 years at Idea Lab. Then I went to Laude Institute, which again combined the sciences, entrepreneurship, and public sector work, because we're a nonprofit, so a very mission-based organization, and I've been there for 20 years.
Wow. I'd say there's no such thing as a straight career pathway. And for the students listening, I hope this is impressing you as much as it's impressing me. So thank you. And let's see, Joy, how did you get to where you are with Estate?
I will say that I am a very lucky person. I grew up, my parents were immigrants from the Philippines. So just like him, you got to play the piano, you got to be a doctor. Like there's two things. Get straight A's. We love you no matter what, and do those things and all is good. So I knew I didn't want to be a doctor. The other options are attorney or accountant. So I went to college. I didn't know about community college because I lived in different states. I was born on the East Coast as well. I went to a UC Davis in political science, and I'm a lover of language. So I actually minored in English and French. I speak a little of a couple of other languages. It doesn't matter. Part of being a Navy kid, which we moved around a lot, is you get connected with people and you just need sign language and you can get along anywhere. So I had a great undergraduate experience, 3 years at UC Davis as an undergrad. I spent a semester in Montreal studying political science. And I knew after the first quarter, I was not going to be a lawyer. I just knew it. But I knew I could get through quick, which was my goal. I ended up going to be, I went to get a master's in business, I have an MBA. I was the best person at my school because I couldn't drink. I was only 20. So they would take me on little excursions and I would be the driver. But I learned so much. I basically became the youngest director at a national restaurant chain. So I helped run company-owned stores. So I had, by the time I was like 27, I had I had about $300 million P&L responsibility, 2,500 employees, but that came from working in restaurants. And so I learned that way. And then I had an entrepreneurial career and I get to teach. And that's how come I'm here helping people understand that community college can help them get there with no debt, whatever your dream is.
Fascinating, thank you. And you know what, I think we'll keep you on the screen, Joy, and ask you to start our next section. Our next section.
We have to do
Did I miss somebody? Oh, I'm sorry.
Do the wheel of opportunity.
Oh, the wheel of opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen.
The game show portion, folks.
Spin
Okie
that
dokie.
wheel.
Yes. So because there's so many people on this call, we know that we have some amazing speakers. And so we're just going to do it randomly to see who gets a chance to ask any of the speakers a question. Okay. Spinning away.
And remember, you can ask any question. We just gave you the question that we sent out as a guideline.
Kieran's the winner. So Kieran, feel free to unmute yourself and you can ask whatever you want of the speakers.
So who's the one who said they're scientists?
They're all scientists.
Huh? Oh, you're all
Yeah.
scientists. Yeah, we are all science. Do you guys like astronomy? My favorite type of subject is I like studying space and stuff. So does anybody here study that?
That would be Dr. Smith, Alvin Smith. Do you have a specific question for him?
Yeah. Like when you guys discover new stuff, like what's the rating process for going out there to see what you discovered? Because you can see it, but like how to get there is really hard, right?
Would you like to try to tackle that?
Yeah. So if I understand the question, so you're saying that once we find something in space, how do we go and explore that or plan that process?
Yeah. Like what's the planning process?
Yeah. So it's depending on the science question, right? So for example, the latest rover mission, the Perseverance rover, the planning for that began about a decade or so ago. And that started with really trying to understand what's the actual scientific question that we're going to ask of this rover. And we already had the Curiosity rover on the surface. And so we wanted to think through what was the difference, right? What's going to be the different focus here? And so what we have are actually planning groups. They're called Team X's. And the Team X groups, they actually sit in a room, whole bunch of smart scientists, and they really just whiteboard and throw things around and see what sticks, right? And it's really a process of true innovation, of trying to answer and think through hypothetically some very, very tough questions. And so when Perseverance started, it was really to go continue some of the missions of the Curiosity rover, but at the time it was not really a mission to go collect samples and bring them back. That actually came about a few years after, once the actual spacecraft build started, which is sometimes it's a headache to all the engineers, because we're always having to balance mass and power and things of that nature. So really the planning process starts a long time of really factoring in all those unique things. And then how do we get off this planet, which is a really, really big thing, right? Because there's so much gravity and it requires so much energy to get off of the planet. And the things that we have to balance is, again, we can't make the rover too heavy, because so that means we can't add on too many science instruments, or we'll never successfully be able to launch and also land the rover safely on the surface. So there's lots of things that we have to go through, lots of trade studies, and these typically take about anywhere from about let's say 2 to 3, maybe 4 years of these trade studies. And then once we've decided, then we go into what's called the phase A and phase B stages, where we start bending metal, where we start actually building the hardware that we're going to do. And then we send out proposals to universities to say, hey, we have this science question, who wants to help us answer that? And that goes out to universities, and they pitch ideas to say, well, we're working on this particular science instrument, for example, MOXIE, which is the Mars Oxygen Exchange in situ instrument. And what that is, as we've seen like a couple of weeks ago, that converted small amounts of carbon dioxide into breathable oxygen. And so that was actually a science experiment that was pitched by a group of scientists from another university. So the planning for that went back years and years. And so that's really how it happens. It takes a long time to get there, but really it's innovation, science, and opening up the doors to hear crazy ideas, because it's really those crazy ideas that turn into amazing, innovative solutions to be able to fly successfully and answer some of those astrological and astrobiological questions as well. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that's my question.
Good. Emily, do we have time for one more?
Sure. Okay.
Spin that wheel.
Showing the wheel again.
Ooh, wheel.
Okay, here we go. Zachariah, you win the chance to ask a question.
Yeah, I just have a very general question for Kim. Just what's a typical day like for you at work?
Good question.
It changes. It could be anything because I'm on call for emergency response. So last Saturday after 8:30, I had to leave my house and go to an incident. So, but you know, it includes inspections. It could be any facility. I've got about 844 facilities to choose from. Some of them do create parts and equipment for some of the stuff that Dr. Smith worked on. But yeah, so I would do field inspections. I would be writing reports. After I do the inspections, because you have to give them the results so that they can correct all the things that they need to do. Additionally, I would be putting together some trainings. So, you know, how do we prepare ourselves for this 40,000 gallon tank? What if a big hole happens of aqueous ammonia? It's got vapor, it's got an odor, it's got the material itself will hurt you, and it's 40,000 gallons. So we have to make sure that that my guys and any surrounding agencies who are going to come in and assist us are probably trained to work in our city. So those are things that I would be sitting there conceptualizing and then eventually making it happen in the real world so that we can practice so that when the real thing happens, we know what to do. Additionally, on a regular day, yeah, again, it could be different. Like 4th of July is coming. That doesn't happen every day. It doesn't happen, it happens once a year. So I would be doing the planning meetings. I would be looking at, well, what fireworks do they want to shoot off? Where are they going to put them? Are they going to be far away enough from the audience and that stuff like that? And then after that gets approved, then I get to go out and watch them shoot it off. So it's really, really different. Every day is different.
That's good. And I'm sure that's true for most everybody. Thank you. Shall we move on, Amelia, or do you want to do another question?
Let's go ahead because we'll hopefully have time for some more.
Well, we'll have time later on.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the part about what are the different careers and the career options, particularly focusing for you folks on the more entry-level positions. So what are the positions in each of their businesses? You're going to see a big difference from person to person, but we want you as students to see the myriad opportunities, and that's why we call this Expanding Bioscience Career Options. So we're going to start this time, as I mentioned, with Joy, and Joy is going to focus on her experience in the food industry, and I asked her to focus a little bit on the plant-based foods, what is happening today in the agroponics and agri-food industry. So Joy, hopefully are you doing slides?
No.
Okay,
No.
so you'll be able to see the timer.
Yes.
And we're using 5 minutes for this.
Cool. I want to thank you all, you students, for being here because the way you're thinking about it. I'm delighted to be in this room with amazing leaders too. These are real people who found their way to really cool jobs. And one thing I wanted to share with you, and I'll put it in the chat, if you think about food and food businesses, pretty much everything you have, even in your kitchen that you eat, whether it's a farm fresh carrot or something that comes out of a package, some science touched it to get there, right? So let's just think about that for a second before we think about specific jobs. So one thing I wanted to share with all of you, and I'll put it in the chat, is you don't think about food and engineering, but they're everything from Doritos to Anheuser-Busch beer, which you don't drink right now, I know, but to wine, to the delicious food they eat in space. Someone in science made that happen, even to the packaging, even to how it gets to you. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, which I think actually, it was Molly who brought this up, and I really want to share this with you as two key points for speaking about the jobs. Transferable skills are your superpower. So if you can look at these, this link I put in, the first link I put was the top 100 food and beverage companies. You probably know a lot of the brands, but a brand like Nestle might have thousands of brands you know about, from soap to ice cream, right? But this 21st century skills really talks about these very important competencies: critical thinking, creativity, which comes from curiosity, right? How am I going to solve this with what I have right in front of me? Collaboration, communication, information literacy, media literacy, technology literacy, flexibility. Flexibility, you need to be able to bend with whatever's coming or pivot, as you've heard all of us do in our careers. Leadership, which means being humble and also being able to learn and listen. Productivity, social skills. I share that with you because I'll just share one quick story. One of my colleagues leads an engineering team at Google. She's a young woman who did some amazing studies at University of Colorado at Boulder. She was recruited by Google based on the research she was doing. And she has a team of 100 engineers. She tells me that there are only 93 of those spots filled at any time. They keep trying to fill those missing spots, 7 or so spots. And it comes down to these. This is your superpower. If you can figure this out and be nice to people, literally they interview people all the time. They all sit around the table and they have the team hang out with the people. And at the end of the day, they say, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We've been working for 3 weeks nonstop to get this project done. Is this person someone I want to be sitting next to? Molly's nodding. At 3 o'clock in the morning after 3 weeks of no sleep. If the answer's no, it's game over, right? So I just want to say that it's a combination of skills. You're technical, you're using your brain, but you're also using your heart, your soul, your connectivity to humans, which is so important this past year. And I say that all as an entry-level job in any of these companies that we're talking about is going to be there. If you can find it. We don't have enough people right now. So I could talk to you. I'll send you guys links. I'll put my information in the chat, and we can send you definitely links of actual jobs. But my point is, my first job when I was 16, I was a cashier at Wendy's. The best job, the hardest job was actually to be at the drive-thru, because you had to be quick and you couldn't write anything down. There was no computer. You had to memorize everything by car. So everything I learned in that job was about how to make really yucky things fun and how to make the customer feel like they were number one still for $2 worth of product. I can do that for anything now. And the problem I end up having now is I have too many people say yes to the projects I pitch because I just know how to work with other people to get things done. So entry-level jobs, lots of them, they can be anywhere from mail clerk to volunteer lab assistant to people who are observing, taking data. There's so much you can learn, but I will say, if you can, focus on jobs where you get to do that hands-on operations stuff. I get to do a lot of strategic planning now, but that's because I ran a lot of businesses on the ground, just like everybody else here. You have to have that hands-on, just like lab work is important. You have to be there. But if you haven't really had that, it's going to be difficult to move up. So that's my time.
Would you say that, do they need a college degree? Can they go from high school into these kind of programs?
It's a great question. I will say the most important thing you can do is, if you can work and go to school at the same time in an area you feel like can build your skills, that's more useful than waiting, either not working or kind of putting it off, because then it's hard to get employed when you haven't really proven that you could actually work with other people. And even if you can't work, if it's just a volunteer thing, or you're at your church, or you're with with an organization you care about, if you can keep school top of mind while doing that. The reason I say that is everyone can get a job now, but the people who move up are the people that have the educational credentials. So to answer your question, Deborah, there are lots of folks, even with a certificate, who do really, really well. And I have lots of those examples. Again, I'll share some links in the chat and my own, if you have specifics. But to answer your question, education first, but if we can do it with it, it just makes it so much stronger as a whole.
Great. And the food industry is very interesting with what's happening with all the plant-based foods and how much bio is involved, which I hadn't really thought about until talking with Joy. So another area clear to look into for all our folks. Okay, thank you, Joy. We're going to continue with Carlos. And Carlos is going to help you understand a little bit about entrepreneurship, about what's an incubator, an accelerator, and what the jobs are in this type of career.
Sure, great. Thank you, everyone. Everything Joy said. No, just kidding. But I echo everything that she mentioned in terms of some of the skills and things that are really going to distinguish you So my world in incubator and accelerators, career-wise, we're made up of program managers at LARDA. So at my company, we have folks that are really good at essentially like making sure the trains run on time and run on schedule. So people have program management skills. In terms of entry level, we have a lot of interns at LARDA. So our process is we have interns. Obviously, we try to develop them. Whether they stay at LARDA or don't stay at LARDA doesn't matter to us. We just want to make sure they have a valuable experience. And if they stay with LARDA, then we have different routes to move them into. If it's program management, then they'll be involved in a particular sector. So whether they like life sciences or energy or agricultural technology, those are our three key sectors. We put them in those areas so they can flourish and work with the directors assisting startups. So the other role is business development, which is kind of what I'm doing at LARDA, and really that's all just relationship management at its heart. It's a little bit of sales, it's a little bit of relationship management, it's a little bit of sort of revenue development at LARDA. I think for any organization, nonprofit, for-profit, you have to think about what's the business model. How are you going to be creating a sustainable business for the organization? How are you going to be bringing in money, right? That's the lifeblood of any organization. So that's what I have to figure out is who are, and this kind of brings other kinds of things for you to think about. It's like, who are our customers, right? What problems do they have? How are we solving those problems? And how are we solving those problems better than anybody else, right? So those are the things that I always think about. And those are, as Joyce said, transferable stuff in any environment, whether you're in an incubator or anywhere else, right? You're thinking about customer segments. Who are my customers, right? What are their problems? What are their pain points? And how are we addressing their pain points? How are we doing it better than anybody else? It's the same kind of logic that we talk to even our entrepreneurs. We work with like 400 or 500 startups each year in our programs. They're scientists, they're really passionate about what they're doing, and we take them through the same thinking and rigor. It's with a little more kind of bells and whistles and some more sophistication to it, but it really kind of boils down to helping them understand this and helping to transfer the passion that they already have as a scientist about their technology. Because what we find is a lot of these scientists and entrepreneurs really love what they're doing, and they'd love to show you a 50 PowerPoint slide about the science, which is great, but it's not at the end of the day going to help them build a business. So we try to help them shift that passion a little bit to boil it down to why it's going to matter to an investor. It's going to be providing venture capital funding for you or a seed round of funding for you. So we work a lot of them in the translational world, which is translating their passion for their science to channel it in a different direction about developing a story that they can tell and get someone excited about what they're doing and convince someone to provide them funding to get their idea to the next level. For me, it's the skills are a little bit in storytelling, in writing. I would say communication, in writing is what got me to where I am, right? Wherever I was able to convince an idea, take an idea and convince other people in a compelling way about where I wanted to go. The other thing that I would say that helped me in my career is in any sort of individual at LARDA, or an incubator, or an accelerator, is be self-aware. Have self-awareness about where your gaps and where your strengths are. My strengths are I can remember a lot of people's names. I don't know how, but I have this. I'm pretty good at remember people's names, and I can remember details, and that helped me be really personable. Helped me form bonds and relationships with people. What that meant is because I was able to form bonds and relationships with people, it meant I was really good at business development, right? And I think someone else said that people like to do business with those that they enjoy being around, right? That 3 a.m. story. I found that I was pretty good at helping to develop and have people feel comfortable and trusted. And that's what kind of led me to business development, right? You sort of go where your strengths are And that's where I was able to contribute the best to my organization, whether biz dev or a program manager or any of those other areas. My time's up.
Great. When you mentioned about interns, Carlos, what background do those interns have to have? How much education? Can a high school student, do you need to get out of community college? Just give us a broad.
Yeah. So technically, typically undergrads are the interns. They can be science or non-science. So if they're like a bio, they're in the sciences, then we'll probably put them on a program team so they could have real firsthand interaction with a lot of the entrepreneurs that we work with in the sciences. I have an intern right now that's political science major, economics major, and he wants to sort of get a diverse understanding of business development, the sciences, and so he's, that's where they're coming from. So international relations are other majors that we've had interns in marketing as well. Yeah. I think as long as they have a passion for the sciences is what's the most important part for us, right? Because I think you need something that sustains you, right? No matter where you're in. If you don't have something that sustains your interest, I'll say every job has its ups and downs, right? If you have something that fires you from within and keeps you interested, that'll sustain you through those ups and downs. So I always ask those questions about what are they passionate about?
Great, thank you. And Amelia, before we do our wheel, we're going to do a wheel in between, but let's do one more so they have 3 people to ask questions, okay? Okay. So actually, it's a good transition to Molly. Because you talked about business development, that's what Molly's doing, and you talked about science and non-science roles, which also fits what Molly can talk about. So Molly, let's have you next, and I know you want to get your slides back up. So
well, that's okay. I can just talk through some of the points.
Okay.
So just as a refresher, I work for Sentinella Hospital, and one of my former bosses here always described working for a hospital as a 24-hour mini city. And it really, really is, because not just that it's open 24 hours, but you have everything from all of your critical care down to your food services readily available every day, on holidays, on weekends. And I think what most people would think about when they think about hospital or healthcare or just the medical field is obviously being a doctor. A couple of the panelists talked about that was their original career trajectory. And now nursing is a huge field because there's a lack of nurses across the country, and nurses are in high demand. But there are a lot of different professions within the hospital setting in and of itself. Even coming in from the consumer technology side, I was surprised at, what a large department our EVS is, which is environmental services, or you have all of your radiology and imaging, you have the clinical lab in-house, pharmacy, food service is a huge department here, admitting and registration and insurance verification. So there's a whole gamut of technical specialties as well as general specialties underneath the hospital umbrella. So I wanted to make sure that I made that point. In my specific role, it's kind of a dual function of business to business, what we call business to business outreach, which is more the business development side. It's physician relations and physician recruiting, and really understanding the market dynamics of healthcare, and more specifically, what we call payers, which is insurances. Again, a key learning of mine coming from a business where it's very much supply and demand oriented. You make a product, there's a demand, you continue to make a product. Healthcare is completely different and super complicated. So I've had to learn a lot here in my role about the dynamics of patient referrals and how it works, and coming from a primary care. Yes, hello?
You're okay. Keep going.
Okay.
Oh, Okay, I'm sorry, I heard some background noise. Anyway, so that's the business to business side. And then there's the business consumer side. So under my umbrella, we're still responsible for all of our public facing communication, the website, social media, digital marketing, advertising, everything that you would traditionally think of as marketing also falls under my umbrella. So when you were talking about what type of entry level jobs would be available, definitely if anybody is interested in social media or digital digital marketing, not just in healthcare, but that particular area is growing and expanding, and having someone that knows about content development and how to reach an audience and how to use all the digital channels, even the new channels that are out and popular, and how to target for your particular, whether you're representing a brand or a business, or even Los Angeles County during the pandemic, you heavily use social media. I think that would be a really good area to start and learn about various areas. So that would be a suggestion here. It's hard here at the hospital because we have a volunteer program, but we don't do typically a lot of internships unless they're like clinical rotations coming in for nursing or even physician rotations. So it's hard in that aspect to get experience. But just on a macro level, my advice based on my experience would be just try every opportunity that comes along. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to go in that path. I think some of the panels talked about the zigzag. It just means, dig in, try, always continue to learn, because that's really how you're going to grow. And when Joy was talking about entry-level jobs, I just kind of bridged back to my first job out of college. And I went to a foreign university and I got my BA, and I came and I got a job as a marketing assistant at a technology company in the Bay Area. And I was so excited because I got a job in my field. And then the CEO's assistant left and they pulled me in. And one of my job duties was to make coffee for the CEO before he came into work. And I remember I was still living at home after college, and I came home every day and I complained to my mom about, I can't believe that I spent all this time and I went to college and I got a degree and I'm making coffee for a living. But let me just tell you, that particular job really was the springboard for everything that I did thereafter. So just dig in and try any opportunity that becomes available to you, and always look for, what you can get out of it and how that's going to help you move you forward.
It must have been amazing coffee though, by the way.
I'm not sure that it was, but he he didn't complain very much.
Good. Okay, so those who have thought about, gee, I'm into the computer world and social marketing, see, you've got all sorts of options in the bioscience world. So that's really interesting. And we also key into these growing careers pathways, nursing, digital marketing, amongst many others. But think about what's growing in LA. And that's where we will always help you at the South Bay Workforce Board. So we're going to take a moment to let our students have a chance, and we're going to spin the wheel again. And when you ask your question, it should be of the three people that have already spoken. So that's Molly, Joy, and Carlos. So make sure your question is directed to the three of them or to one of them.
Okie dokie, here we go. Cameron.
And unmute yourself and let's hear a question.
Hi. My question is for Carlos. And my question is, how has your journey impacted your mindset since the age of 18?
That's a great question. So how has my journey impacted my mindset? It's evolved. I think my mindset has evolved with challenges wherever I've been. So, I'll say, I think as my mindset has evolved, I've certainly learned to embrace challenges rather than see it as something frustrating and defeating. I've seen it as a test. It's funny because I have a 17-year-old son, so I feel like it's I'm sort of downloading a little bit of what I'm trying to tell him too, right? When I speak with him about challenges, and the other thing I've learned is perspective, right? Being a lot older, when I was younger, things seemed so huge, right? Challenges seem so overwhelming, so burdensome, overpowering. And as my mindset has matured, as I've matured, I've learned to put them in perspective, as not being as big as I thought they were. The other thing that my mindset has evolved has been in terms of I'm in control in terms of situations. Rather, what I can control is how we react to situations, right? So stressful situations, challenging situations, to really focus on what I can control, which is how I react to something. And my mindset's also been that as I've gotten more mature, is I'm also an example to others, right? As I see myself as in the workplace, you're an interactive being with other people, right? I'm not in a bubble. So what I say, what I do, how I say it matters and is recognized by other people. And so how I react to things is noticed. And so I really am pretty mindful a lot about how I'm modeling that, right? At home and at work, right? Even with people that I work with, try to teach, try to learn. So I think all that has sort of, all those things mixed together sort of combine a little bit of some of the life lessons. I guess that's the best category to put this into, is life lessons in terms of my mindset in dealing with situations, stressful situations, challenging situations, things that have just got me down. When you have a real bummer of a day, all these things that I mentioned before have helped lift me up. I hope that helps.
Yeah, what an interesting question and a great answer.
Good question.
Amelia, do we have time for one more now, or you want to save them?
Let's save them. Let's make sure we have time for the last two speakers first.
And we can keep this going if we end up being at 4:45 and we're in the question part and people want to stay on to ask questions. You can. We'll hold it another 5 minutes or so. So our next person is going to be Kim Yu, and Kim is going to talk a little bit about careers in, I'd say, anything related to bio, whether it be in the fire department or hazardous materials management. Either way, Kim.
Okay.
Did you want to use your slide?
What was that?
Did you want to do that slide that you had prepared or not?
Sure. Do you have it, or I can share my screen?
Yeah, if you have it, great.
There we go.
Show it for a minute while you're talking, then you can take it down.
So if everybody can take a look at that list, that's a really short list of what is available in the world of hazardous materials, environmental health and safety management. Like, all of our speakers here and all of their industries have to deal with someone like me. So I not only am working in my agency, but I'm getting to visit APL. I get to visit a hospital like Huntington Hospital. I get to visit, like I met Wendy Johnston at the it's like a bio collaborative, just like Carlos. I find myself totally involved, or not involved, in all these different industries, because my core goal is to make sure that everybody is doing what they're doing and get to do what they do safely for themselves and for the public. I heard a lot of talk about, what your passion is and how I landed there. And it was really, I had a passion for science, I'm going to stop sharing. I have a passion for science, but at the same time, I felt like I had a passion to help people. I really, really wanted to help people. It was evident because, you know, when I was ready to go to grad school, what I wanted to do, or my discipline, was master's in public health, because I really had a desire to go out there and just, I cared about people and their safety and their health. And that was really my passion. So yes, I like science, but I really had a passion for safety and just to help people. And I found that when I got to this job, I was really working with the public on a daily basis. You have to explain complicated concepts to people who know nothing about chemistry, or you may have the luxury of inspecting a lab, you know, like at Caltech, and they know everything about science. And so at that point, you're the safety expert. But, you know, a big part of my job is having to explain these scientific concepts to people. Like, why is it not safe to, why do you have to strap your carbon dioxide cylinder this way? You know, why can't you strap it at the top? Or, you know, if there was a release of carbon monoxide, why do we mount the detector at eye level and not at the floor, because of the properties of the gas themselves? And so a lot of the jobs right now, you need to have a 4-year college degree. That's just kind of a basic requirement. You know, just like the list I just showed you. For example, I'm actually about to start a hiring process, and I'm looking for someone with a 4-year degree in a science, particularly biology, chemistry, or biochemistry. And other agencies such as LA County Fire all across the state regulate the very same laws, and we are all looking for the same type of professionals. A way to get your foot in the door is to really get active and involved. You can reach out to the agencies if you're interested. A lot of these agencies might have reserve programs. Frankly, with a love for science, you could be anything in the fire department. I mean, you can be a paramedic. So you don't have to do hazardous materials. You can go out there and be a fireman and attend to the sick folks. So you could, and that's an entry level. You get a 4-year degree in college. You don't even need the 4-year degree, I don't think. And you can apply to be a firefighter and end up going, and we'll send you to paramedic school. And there you go. That's your link to the bioscience. But at the same time, it's highly desirable to get the 4-year degree. Criminalist is one that I felt was really interesting, that I had no clue existed when I was at UCLA. Like, I took 4 years of college and nobody told me that all these other careers were out there, that I was either going to work at a lab like Amgen, who's a pharmaceutical company, or that I was going to go back to grad school and then eventually teach. Those were my options when I was graduating. So I felt like now I need to give back and tell everybody there's so much more out there to do. And we're all looking for entry-level college grads. And it's a job where if you love to be independent, you get that. You get to be out on your own, out in the field. Like, I drive my car around. I'm working independent most of the time, and you have to make your own decisions. You have to be accountable for your decisions and have a lot of integrity. And you're really there for the safety of the public. There, my time is on.
Wow. Terrific.
There's so much more, but
That's great. I think you gave a terrific overview. And if I can say anything about the speaker so far, and I know the next speaker, the contagiousness of your enthusiasm of all of our 5 speakers, I hope is reaching to all the students. It certainly is giving me goosebumps. So thank you all. And we're going to flow into our final speaker about career options in space, in this whole planetary safety. And you are on, Alvin. You said you had a slide. Do you have that?
Yes, I can share. And I just love Kim's enthusiasm. I tell you, she's like my spirit animal. I feel it. I love it. That's super great.
We won't see the timer with the slide up, so we'll just have to interrupt you. Or set your phone.
Yep, I got my phone. So let me go ahead and share, and then I'll go ahead and all right. So hope everyone can see this then. So really, what is planetary protection, right? And so I often get this question as I give talks, and it is, oh, please go, let's see. There we go. This is not planetary protection. It's not the Men in Black. I wish it were something as cool as this. I don't get a little flashy laser eye thingy. So that's not what it is. But planetary protection is really how we address microbial contamination, right, of our solar system. So the spacecraft that we launch, and I mentioned the Perseverance rover, but all the spacecraft that we launch that's outside of our Earth's orbit must meet certain cleanliness levels in order to kind of do their mission. And so when we launch from Earth, we call that forward contamination or forward planetary protection. And then as we bring things back, like I mentioned, the Mars sample return, and we'll be bringing samples back from Mars for the very first time ever, hopefully in about another 10 or so years, then that's focusing on backward planetary protection. And it's really making sure that we don't compromise the samples, but also that we don't inadvertently contaminate our own biosphere, right? From something that maybe could be bad and we just don't know. So that's the crux of planetary protection. And we do that forward by using clean room environments. So you'll see some of our engineers, they're dressed up in these white garbs, head to toe, or they're wearing gloves or goggles, you know, things that we've all learned from the COVID pandemic. And so those types of things are ways we keep our spacecraft clean. I won't go there. And so some of the things and the folks that we're looking for, and so in the group that I support, and I don't people manage this group. That was something I realized about 4 years ago, that I did not like to people manage, but I love to program and project manage. So I do a lot of that, and also science outreach. And so in the group that I support, we have about 29 or so folks with a range of disciplines. So we have some microbiologists like myself. We have some other folks that are molecular biologists or actual engineers that are mechanical or hardware engineers, things like that. We also have folks that are geneticists, so folks that specialize particularly on sequencing and things of that nature. And I'll talk to you in a second why that all matters. And so with that, we have folks that have bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and PhDs. But yes, you definitely need to have at least a 4-year degree. But there are internship programs available to get integrated in the process now. And I'll put a link in the chat so you can see as you start to move into college and other things about some of those internship opportunities. So one of the cool things that we do, it's not just looking at space on hardware, but we also look at space or microbes on hardware, but we also look at microbes in space and on the International Space Station. And so if you can believe it, and there was recently a paper that was published, there are microbes that can actually grow in the vacuum of space. And we found there are some bacterial spores that can survive the harsh coldness and the UV radiation in space. And so we work with astronauts that are on the space station right now, and we've identified a host of organisms that can survive that. Some of them have been found that are very radiological durant. So they basically are very hardy for radioactivity. Others are very hardy for cold environments. Others are very hardy for hot environments or heat. And so we find these organisms and we work with astronauts in space, and we understand and try to work with them to understand what's the environment that they live in. So they're on the International Space Station and they're floating around, they're eating brownies like astronaut Scott Kelly, who spent over a year in space. And so with that, we're understanding what's going on in their microbiome, in their environment. And that builds on astronaut health and astronaut safety as well. So those are also biology things that you can do as you start thinking about, what do I want to do in this whole biology or scientific world? Lastly, there's one of my colleagues here, astronaut, Dr. Kate Rubins. She just landed, and let me say this one and I'll be done, I promise. She just landed about a few weeks back or last month from the International Space Station. I worked with her. She is one of my great friends. I did my postdoc with her, and we were about the same age, and she was at MIT, and she decided that she was going to give up her lab at MIT and join the astronaut program. So she threw off her biology hat and put on a space helmet. And so she's an amazing virologist, and I did Ebola work with her. She's a virologist, microbiologist, but she's the first astronaut to ever do sequencing of microbes in space. So you have the option to be a scientist on Earth. You have the option to be a scientist in space. You have the option to be a scientist anywhere. And these are some of the things that I wanted to say. And so I'll stop there because I can keep going forever and ever and ever there. So thanks.
Everybody, is so fascinating. All the variety of careers is absolutely fascinating. And I'm not going to take up any more time. I'm going to leave it for the questions. Let's spin the wheel. And now the questions can be to any or all of our 5 panelists. So Amelia, you're on with us with the wheel.
Okay, and since it is 4:45, just want to let, in case anybody has a hard stop, want to remind you all, I let you all know that after this event, you're going to all be getting an email about your virtual graduation. We're going to be doing a virtual graduation for all of you on Wednesday, June 2nd at 3:30. So 2 weeks from now, you'll get an invite for it. All the speakers on today are also going to be invited to help celebrate your accomplishments. So just FYI, that's coming. And we're going to mail your certificates next week so that you can hold them up on the 6th. Gotta iterate in COVID times. So, okay. So now we're going back over to the wheel.
And while she's getting the wheel, just a reminder, if you didn't see the chat, all the recording, the links will all be sent out to you.
Okay, here we go. Oh, like Jose, you're up. Is Jose still on? Let's see, Jose, are you still here? I don't see. Oh, Jose, are you able to unmute yourself? Okay, once, twice. We're gonna pick someone else. Okay. Spinning again. Oh, Chananya, are you? Yep, you're still in. Awesome. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello. It's actually Shania though.
Oh, Chananya. Okay.
It's okay. So I want to ask Kim, what is something that surprised you about the role when you first started?
Kim, did you hear her question?
So can you please repeat that?
Okay. What is something that surprised you about the role when you first started?
What surprised me? There's so much that surprised me. You know, coming from like just being a college student and kind of living the mid-20s life, and then all of a sudden I'm forced to put on a uniform every day. I have my belt buckle has to be a certain way. They expect my boots to be, you know, it's very odd. And the other thing that really, but the real big thing that surprised me was how much freedom I get to work on my own. And that comes with, you know, your performance. You have to perform so that your supervisors trust that your work is good and that you are doing what you're supposed to do. But it lends me, you know, when I started with the county, in one day I could start from Palos Verdes, which is super far south, and you know, and then I could end up all the way up West Hollywood, all in one day, doing inspections all across the county. So navigation, you know, growing up in St. Gabriel Valley, I'm like, where am I? You know, so learning the navigation part, being independent and having to manage your own time and your own self. I couldn't believe that they were allowing me to do so, but I'm going to do my best, you know? So yeah, those were some of the big surprises. It's just how responsible you really have to be in this field, because you're really on your own most of the time, and you have to be able to make your own decisions. So, you know, make some really big decisions, because one decision you make can cost that business a lot of money if they if that repair really needs to be done or that work needs to be corrected.
Great point. Great question. Great point. Let's spin the wheel again. I just posted, by the way, that if you have questions and they don't get answered, send them to Amelia or me, and we will send them to the person or persons you would like to have answered. And I'm sure they'll get back to us. Ivan, you're on. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a question for Al Smith. So my question was, you said that prior to your current career path, you were interested in medicine. You said you pursued a MD PhD, right? That's what you're interested in. What made you like change your mind on medicine? Because I'm currently pre-med student, and I heard all of you guys change your minds, or you guys decided to do something else.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I was actually typing your response back in the chat because I saw that you sent me a private message there. But no, that's great. So it's all, every time it's a very personal decision, no matter what. And I think everyone has to make that decision, which makes sense for them. And for me, what made sense was that again, I was always very passionate about science. I was passionate about, as I mentioned, space. I was passionate about medicine in a way of wanting to, as Kim mentioned earlier, also help people as well. And so at the time, I believed that, well, the only way that I could help people was to be a physician and put hands on them, right? And to kind of do that type of thing. However, I actually started doing some research in HIV, and that was very personal to me because I'd seen so many people die, and I really wanted to try to make an impact that way. And so what I did is, once I started to do that research and work on one of the first HIV vaccines with Merck, I saw that, and this was an internship with Merck, I saw that that particular experience allowed me not only to help just one person or two people with just by putting my hands on them in a medical, as a physician, but as a researcher, I had the opportunity to help not just a few, but actually hundreds of thousands or millions of people if I actually made a breakthrough that could touch so many people. So I said, you know, for me, the personal experience and that driver for me was that ability to help in a much larger way. And it's interesting because one of the COVID vaccines was based on some of the early work that I did back with the HIV vaccine. And so it's interesting because I was doing a lot of talks recently, about 5 months ago, when the vaccines were just starting to come out and science was happening. And I was again educating so many about these vaccine products and what have you, just truly based on not knowledge, let's say from a medical standpoint, but as a research scientist that actually worked on and understood how the vaccines work from a scientific standpoint. That actually shed a bit more light on that, where even physicians may have struggled to understand and really connect those dots. So I think for me, I made the best decision because I like and love to communicate and talk about science, right? And so that's why I was able to kind of take a step back and think, well, how can I make the biggest impact and really connect the passions that I love in this world? And that was the way that I could do it. Now, I have other friends that are physicians, family members that are physicians, and we really kind of work, you know, and talk about things hand in hand. And so I understand a lot of their nuances and they understand mine. But at least from what I do on a day-to-day, this is what I love. And again, I don't think that I might not have found my path to NASA to connect my really childhood dream had I really locked into this physician and drive as well. So all of these things, you know, and again, there's no wrong decision. That's the other thing, right? That's the other thing. Don't worry about making, oh, I think I'm going to make the wrong decision. There are no wrong decisions. It's about really making a decision that's best for you, and even at that time. And so we can chat offline if you'd like, because I certainly have some other stories as well about other internships, specifically for pre-med students. And because I still communicate a lot with folks in that field and in the physician space. So, and I was gonna do so many of these pre-med and actually MD driven programs, and really backed away from a lot of that at some critical points as well. So yeah, if you have, I'm happy to talk offline. I'm on vacation right now, but I will hit you up when I get back on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast right now, but yeah, happy to chat when I get back.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. So so the gist of it was that you kind of figured out that you wanted to pursue something else through the internship with Merck.
Yeah, Merck was the
Right.
one that opened up that light that I can help more people by just doing the research and finding something amazing, rather than maybe pushing pills or things of that nature.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Because for me, I want to like, because I like medicine, and like I'm interested in potentially being a surgeon, but I also like science too, and I like computer science and engineering. And I'm working at a lab right now, and during like the breaks, I talk with my colleagues and other students, like students are in master's programs, and I'm telling them like I have ideas like working with robots and stuff, and they're like, "What are you doing studying chemistry? You should be doing mechanical engineering." So I'm having like
No,
second
but
thoughts.
here's the thing though, man. And so bioengineering is big. And so also computer science, you mentioned that. So coding is the way of the future as well. And so I wish I knew how to code more. And so that's what I'm pushing more of that on students. So definitely there is no straight line anymore, right? To say that once you're in this, so many things intersect. And so right now I work with bioengineers, I work with chemists, I work with computer scientists as well. And all of us really, it's just intersecting paths. And so no, there is no, just because you want to do this or you have an interest over here, doesn't mean that you can't learn how these other passions fit into this model as well. So no, again, there's no bad decisions, but I will say, it sounds like you have all these other things that are kind of pulling you in a little different, and so that's perfect.
Yeah.
You want to create options for yourself. You never want to be in a position where you only limit yourself to one or two things. Create as many options as you can so that you can make really, really, really good decisions about your future.
Yeah, definitely. If you have the time when you get back from vacation, if we could get in contact, and just so I could get more feedback.
And
appreciate that.
Ivan and Alvin, I'd like to say that I think what Alvin was saying pertains to everybody. We have students that said they were interested in business, students that said they were interested in real estate, students that were in shore, some who said they wanted medicine. So I think your question and the answer goes to everybody. So those of you that are listening in, that are staying with us, think of it as if it was a question to you, that you asked that question.
May I just make
Joy.
one
Yeah,
really
go
quick
ahead, Joy.
comment?
Yeah.
So one thing that I am so awed by everyone on this call. My sector that I actually specifically work on is retail, hospitality, and tourism. And so not as cool as space, but think of like when we go to in LA, Sophie Stadium's gonna host the Super Bowl, right? Oh my gosh, the Super Bowl, the first one we had in 2 years. This is a big deal. But if you think about a stadium, if you think about the science to create that stadium, but that makes that stadium function, plus all the fun stuff, like even the hat we're gonna buy, somebody had to engineer how to make that. So I just want you to like be open. Someone has to make sure the air is clean. Someone has to, all that. Someone has to actually source the food that you eat. And so you can have your nachos at your, seat, all that fun. Someone does the digital, like Molly was saying, not only there's a whole team that just does, like, they'll actually track, we're gonna post this little picture and see what happens and see if it drives nacho sales. And that's all they do. It's super fun. Plus, there's people like Kim. The fire response is there for not only for health but for environmental issues. There's safety, there's security, but there's also like just the planning for how they plan for the parking spaces. It's all brainiacs like you that are making it happen so that the football players can be seen across the globe. So I just use that as an example. Like, you don't even think about one space as having so many opportunities, but I think definitely whatever you do, pre-med or whatever, just there's fun stuff. There's a person who actually helps design the warm-ups that the basketball players, now only the people going to the playoffs. We're not going to talk about that, but but you know, that's, I just want you to say, like, this combination of what you love, what you're curious about. I think Dr. Smith's example of that is like, I had this love, but I was kind of scared about it, but I was really good at this. And it's like, it's okay. Don't be scared about it. Like, combine your strength with your area of, with what you're really passionate about. And I think this is a theme. I'm saying it over and over. I'm so sorry, but I just want to make sure I get inspired because it reminds me of what I like, which is connecting the dots. And so anyway, I just wanted to make sure we said that. And also Sophie Stadium.
Yeah. And you know what, you raised a point that made me think, remind all the students that you each are invited, along with our speakers, to be part of the BioFlex LinkedIn group. It's a private group. That's our speakers, our employers in this field, and our students. So you want to make sure that you get onto LinkedIn so that I can then link you into this, our group, our private group, because we post not all of these type of opportunities that are going up. As I hear about them, or Amelia or any of our speakers, as we hear about these, and SoFi Stadium is huge in terms of the science that's going to be there, that is now and will be. You mentioned the Super Bowl, we have Special Olympics coming. So when you guys are graduating, there's lots out there, even if it's an internship, whether it's volunteer or paid. So I want you to get onto our LinkedIn site so that we can be telling you about all of this. So we're really, thank you all for staying at this, the extra 15 minutes. I'm going to reiterate to you all that if you have questions that were not answered, and I'm sure you do, please send them to either Amelia or to me. We will make sure they get to whomever you want to answer your question, and either they will answer you directly, if you would like, or they'll answer through us, either way. And if you'd like to have a one-on-one with any of these folks, I have a feeling that they'd be very happy to talk with you one-on-one. So just let us know and we'll put you in contact. Okay. Amelia, anything for you?
We'll see you all in 2 weeks on Wednesday, June 2nd for your graduation. I'm excited. All right. Bye, everybody.
All right.
everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all
Have a
to
great
all
day.
of our speakers. And
Bye.
hope to see our speakers at
Bye.
graduation.